But obviously it's tough sometimes to always shoot videos, but right now I got you for like, I don't have to rush, so that's what's cool about it right now. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and grab my 1.5 card. I'm gonna create a little bit of a bowl just because it's been a while since he got a haircut. So on a drop fade, I'll go ahead and drop it towards the back. And when you do this bowl, you definitely wanna just give yourself a good little preview of the area you're gonna work in. So it's okay to work just a little bit above where you're planning on doing your 00 bowl or your 0. We'll go ahead and open it. And again, just soften out that line. So remember guys, when you're cutting hair, you never wanna create like a harsh line. You're always trying to have safe and like easy exit points. So what I mean by that is, as you see, when I come up with my clipper here, I'm not creating like a harsh line. I'm always kind of fading away from the client, so that way, when I try to get out that line later, it's a much easier transition to blend out. All right, so here I'm gonna be using my 0. I'm gonna stay just around the ear on the low fades or drop fades, just depending on how you refer to them. For this one, I might start in the back just to make it easier for me to see my bowl. Right here, you're gonna see me come around the ear. Now, some of my videos, I've been starting off with the 00. This is usually the way I cut hair on a more day-to-day basis, is with my 0 first. That way I have a very easy line to blend out at the bottom. For a lot of my students, I always try teaching them this technique just because the 0 is a lot more forgiving than the 00 is. I'm gonna go ahead and open my clipper, go slightly above the line I've just created. Just work it up. And then I'm gonna close my clipper about 2 clicks, and I'm gonna stay just in between those halfway points. I'm gonna stay about halfway into those 2 points, and then I'll go 1 click down. The clipper does have about 4 clicks, so when I first open it up, it is considered a half, and when my clipper's closed, it is considered a 0. So right now, I'm 1 click away from being back to the 0, which is almost its shortest point, so I can get comfortably close to that bottom line. All right, next I'm gonna go ahead and throw on my half guard, and I'm gonna slowly work my way into this line on the bottom of it. So when I start off, I'm gonna start off with it open and slowly connect into the top. I know I'm not supposed to connect all the way to this line because this line is the 1.5 open, but I just wanna introduce the half guard so that way I could slowly start closing it and come down towards this bottom line. So right here, again, I'm not going that high with it, but I can hear a little bit of hair coming off of the scalp, which is good. Means that I'm slowly connecting. And I'm gonna do that back and forth until I feel that everything's been smoothed out well. So right here, now I'm gonna go ahead and close it about 2 clicks. And every time I close the clipper, I'm gonna stay continuously more and more down to that bottom line. I'm gonna stay lower, so that way I don't take the fade any higher than I'm supposed to. And then right now I'm gonna go ahead 1 more click. And again, just work on that little area that I've been dealing with. I don't wanna spend too much time detailing right now just because it is really early in the haircut. But I do wanna try to get as much done as efficiently as possible. But I do like kind of running through these steps fairly fast, just so that way I can get a more finished picture, so that when I could I could detail with a greater understanding of how the final look is gonna come out. So right there, I'm just opening up the clipper again, kind of smoothing out anything I see. And then at this point, I can either work from the top down or just blend out the bottom. So for some people, it is easier to blend out the bottom first, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Now right here, guys, I'm really just trying to stay right in this area. And the angle that I take, the whole clipper isn't making contact. The way I can explain it is, if this was the scalp, I slightly have my clipper off the edge of it as I'm cutting through, so that way I create a little bit of an angle off to not mark such a harsh line as I come up. Now once I've done that, I can get rid of everything else on the bottom of it. But it is difficult for some barbers to do this, so just be patient. But there we already have the 00 at the bottom. And again, I never really had a harsh 00 line to take out, which is what I really like for my students whenever they're learning how to cut hair. And I mean, just anybody in general. I've been cutting hair for about 14 years now, and I'm still able to use this technique on a day-to-day basis, and it does work out really well for me. All right, so on the top, we are gonna do a 5 with the grain. So whenever you are doing any type of with the grain work, you wanna make sure you really comb the hair in its natural direction. You wanna try to locate the cowlick and where the hair begins to split and change direction, so you don't cut that one against the grain. So right here, I'm gonna come with the 5 and just come with the natural grain pattern. So again, if you don't understand with the grain, I'm cutting the hair in the direction that it grows. So since this hair grows forward here, I'll go straight down. As I start to get to the side, the direction changes just slightly. And the good thing about cutting with the grain, guys, is it's not meant to cut hair even, it's meant to shape hair even. So right now I'm just shaping the hair more than cutting it even. So for some kids that like texture or just like a cooler style that they could like spike up and kind of mess around, this is gonna be a really good look for you. I'm gonna go ahead and show it more towards the end of the video, how the haircut comes out when you do cut like this. But just so you could see, right now I'm just kind of creating my bubble around the head. Now usually I don't really work around the chair, I will turn the chair, but when you are doing a video, you want to make sure to keep everything in shot. So that's why you'll see me kind of working around the chair, but if you're cutting at your shop or at your house, you can kind of just turn the chair to make it easier on yourself. All right, so one mistake a lot of people make is they think that they have to do just the one number with the grain. So I did the 5 on top. I'm gonna go ahead and follow up with the 4 towards the side and work my way down so that that shape on the bubble kind of begins to level off and he has a clean silhouette around his entire head. So here you're gonna see just a little more hair come off, and I'm not gonna do it so much towards the top of the head, but you're gonna see me work it more around the entire shape of the head. So again, whenever I'm doing YouTube videos, guys, I cut one side and then the other, but if you are cutting at your shop or your house, you can go ahead and just do this around the entire head. So on this side, that's what I'm doing right now, so you're not gonna see it as much. But again, anything I'm doing on one side, I'm gonna evenly do on the other side. So the cool thing about also working your guards with the grain is you do start to lighten that line out. And that's good because a lot of barbers are gonna have trouble blending that out sometimes. So again, right here, just bringing it down. Okay, so now that I've already brought it down to the 4, I don't like bringing them down too far in lengths, because then sometimes when you're cutting with the grain, it doesn't really transition as well as when you're cutting against the grain. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my 5 guard again, and I'm gonna slowly work my way up to start bringing that weight line down. So I'll create my 1.5 bar and fade up to it, but now you're gonna see that I'm gonna begin fading down to that 1.5. So it's kind of important that you follow the directions as I'm saying them if you're trying to do a technique like this when you're cutting, guys, because all the steps that I use are meant to connect back into that 1.5, whether I'm working my way up or down. So right now, again, I close my guard. So I start off with a 5 open. Now I'm gonna come in with a 5 closed. And again, just slowly bring down the weight. Above the 5 guard, I'm cool with skipping guards one at a time. So I'm gonna skip to the 3 right now. And then again, just open first. And I'm just slightly connecting into that weight line. You're gonna hear just a little bit of hair cutting. And again, I'm always trying to leave a soft exit point with my clipper. So I'm sloping away from the head so that way I'm connecting into that 5 as best as I can without having to use every single guard. Because again, in these bigger guards, it's gonna be easy for you to connect those lines together. Now I'm gonna go ahead and close it. And I'm gonna continue to work in that area, and you should always hear just a little bit of hair getting cut. So if you close your guard and you don't hear any hair getting cut, you're really not doing anything. So you're kind of just wasting your time and the client's. So after the 3 guard, I'm not gonna skip any more guards. I'm gonna go ahead and go to my 2 guard, which should connect me as close as possible into the 1.5. Now, on most haircuts, you are gonna have to use the 1.5 again, but I do try to get the most out of this 2, just so that I do as little to no work, like basically so I can do as little work as possible when it comes to the 1.5. So right there, I closed it. And again, just working the fade down to that line that I already created. So that 1.5 line that I started the whole haircut with was really like the starting point to everything else I was gonna be doing. So I tell people all the time, you don't have to have your bowls perfect, but you do wanna spend a good amount of time making sure they're at least symmetrical, so that as you're working, you kind of have the same guide of a bowl as you work around, kind of like that. So then right here, I'm gonna come in with the 1.5 guard open, connecting into that 2. And this is where I really get to start detailing the fade out a lot more. Because now, as you can see, I have a much more finished project on this side, or much more finished haircut, whatever you want to call it. But right here now, I could start seeing where these lines are a little bit of an issue for me, and then I could slowly bring them down. So this is the time that I begin to really detail. I feel like some barbers detail too soon, and maybe you're doing that yourself at home. So right here, again, just open and close the clipper. So right now it's closed. And just slowly work on those areas that you feel are a little darker than you'd like. Understand that nobody's hair is perfect, but you just want to do as best of a job as possible. So, and then you can continue to work your guards down through any part of this haircut now. So right now at the 1.5, I'm going to go ahead and go to the 1. Start off with it open. And this point, I really want to be careful not to take the fade any higher. But again, just kind of sanding out those little dark spots, make it a lot smoother, nice clean haircut. And again, the fact that I'm already more done with the haircut makes it easier to really see where those dark spots kind of stand out, because not everybody grows hair the same, so you got to work with each client individually. So right here, I'm dealing with his skin complexion, his hair color, his hair density. All of those play factors into how much of the stretch I need to put into this blend so that it looks good for him. But in order to get here, I got to do all the other steps first. And again, I wouldn't recommend any type of detailing until you've done at least every guard 1 time. Then you could begin to use guards twice. So right there, I just opened it slightly and then I closed it. Now I'm going to come back to my half guard open. And again, at this point, I'm just really getting to specialize this haircut for him, make it unique for his, again, everything that he has going on, from his complexion, his hair color, everything like that. Because I could do the same haircut on like 5-10 people today and not one of them will ever look the same because of all those factors. So again, slowly closing the guard. At this point, I'll close the guard 1 by 1. I won't necessarily close it like 2 clicks, 1 click. I just kind of go 1 click down at a time and continue to work in certain areas as I see fit. Now, don't overdo it sometimes, because I've seen barbers that do that and then they end up creating a problem. You kind of just trust the process and give your best work possible, a manageable amount of time. So there we go. Let me just go ahead and continue the other side and then we'll start on the front. So right here, just before I move on, I'm gonna go ahead and just shave out the bottom. So some clients might not ask for this, some might ask you, but I always try to do it at least on the sideburns, so that way the shape of his face really slims out his profile, especially towards the bottom right here. So from that front profile view, like whenever he's looking at himself in the mirror, it's gonna look really nice and blended down to nothing. So if you're not doing that, I do recommend it at least on the sideburns. The back of the neck, some people can get sensitive to it, so you do gotta be aware of that and maybe ask them. Definitely finish up with some aftershave whenever you are doing any type of fade down to the shaver, so that way you can hopefully prevent any type of irritation. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and edge up the front, right? Yes. Okay, cool. So in this situation, guys, I'm actually gonna throw just a little bit of hairspray first. So something that I wanted to show y'all. This is the Helping Hand hairspray. What I like to do is spray a little bit over the top to kind of give me a little bit of moisture and texture, especially on these edge ups that are a little bit more with like a bang. And the cool thing about the hairspray is I like to kind of like just work it in with my hands. All right, so what I want to do is just grab my diffuser. So so I can slowly dry the hair. And then earlier we had talked about how the cutting with the grain kind of adds that cool texture and stuff. And you'll see that as you begin to work styles into this kind of a hair now that we've already cut it like that. So again, I'm just gonna get the diffuser and start drying it out in the front while combing it into a straight position with a hairspray to kind of help catch the hair, so that way I'll get a much straighter line and I'll have an easier time edging up this hair so it's not running away from me as I start to edge it up with my T-edger. All right, so right here we have that little bit of a curl that hairspray is gonna help us kind of keep a little straighter so that I can get the most out of his hairline. So I'm gonna start using this as like a starting point to come across with. You do wanna keep the center as low as possible, so that way you give him a real nice full edge up without pushing his hairline up more than he wants. This is kind of like a crop in a sense. You could do it with the shears, guys, but today I'm gonna show you how to do it with the clippers. Like I said right here, I'm gonna be using that to kind of help me start my edge up. And that's what I like about the hairspray. It's real light, real flexible, dries up very quick. And you can see that it's helping me really start to edge this hairline up without pushing it back, giving him a much fuller look in front. And then right here, you want to make sure you're not pushing the hairline back. So I just want to go right to that line and almost like stop right where I feel like it should go up to. I want to stop just a little before it, so that way I have a little bit of room to edge it up with the razor in case I feel like it needs to be a little sharper, but also just to preserve as much of the front hairline as possible. If you're gonna mess up anywhere, try not to mess up on edge ups. I've seen a lot of barbers that are great at fading but bad with edge ups, and I've seen barbers that are great with edge ups and not that great with fading, and usually the ones that know how to do edge ups will last a little bit longer depending on the haircuts you're doing in your shop. So there we go, we have a much straighter profile. Just checking it. And then I'll go ahead and start on the other side. All right, so right here, just gotta go ahead and clean them up a little bit. And then I'm gonna try to work across it, keeping it as straight as possible. And you can see that hairspray is just helping to really let me maintain a smooth, straight line. Sometimes when you're working with longer hair like this, it's gonna run away from you or curl up a little bit. So that's why I recommend just a little bit of hairspray and then the blow drying with, again, a diffuser, because you don't wanna use like another kind of blow dryer without the diffuser, because the diffuser is gonna just calm the hair right into place. If you're using it without, it's gonna push the hair in an unnatural direction. Here we go, so just checking it up, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use a razor right here in the corner. So for some students, I always teach them it's never bad to use just a little bit of fibers, especially when you're trying to do like as much of a natural line as possible. So if you see, when I spray these fibers, it kind of helps grab onto the hair that's there. So you see earlier, you didn't really see all that there. So some barbers might end up pushing back with the blade. That's why sometimes I'll tell barbers to throw a little bit of fibers so that I have a much cleaner view of that line where it's grabbing onto hair. Because again, fibers won't grab onto something if it's not there. If it was like a smooth surface, it would just fall off. But here it's grabbing onto the hair he has left. Now again, he has like a light brown hair color, so that fiber is really gonna help me see those light brown hairs that are growing so I don't push his hairline back, and it's better for him in the long run. So right here, just gonna come in, and like I said, with those fibers, I'm able to hit that line right where it's at. Now, again, I don't wanna hear y'all in the comments talking about like, oh, well, it's not gonna look like that when he showers. You're right, I get that. What I'm trying to say is, now all the little hair that some barbers would be shaving off, these fibers help me see them a little bit better, so that way I do his edge up as natural as possible. And if you want, you can wipe them away, that's fine. I'm not saying that they have to stay on, but now I could see where hair actually exists, because again, his skin tone is so like a tan, and then his hair is really light, so it is easy to lose the like where the line starts and finishes. So with those fibers, it's just kind of like a cheater's technique to help you protect your client's hairline. All right, so again, right here, now you see more of the finished look. Go ahead and look down for me. Okay. So anytime I want to add a little bit of more texture into the hair, I could just use a little bit of texture powder. Again, just to sprinkle a little bit through, kind of rub all the powder out, kind of get it in. Now, one thing you do want to try to do, guys, is get it into the roots a little bit more. If you're using texture powder, a lot of barbers don't really show that. I've seen it where like they'll just throw it over the top and then bust it all in. Again, it's not bad to do that, but if you can get just a little bit into those roots, it does really change the look of it a lot. Something like that. And then if you're not able to do it with your fingers, you can always just use a texture comb. Kind of helps you split it up. So I like doing texture towards the back of the hair, so that way you get those little spikes and everything like that. And then I would use just a comb in the front to really like thicken out that hairline. So again, the comb on top, I would just come to the comb in the front. The texture comb, I use it more on the top, but the little comb, I'll use it in front to really make his hairline look a lot straighter, thicker, and fuller. And then that way I get to check it and see if there's any little hairs that I want to get rid of to really make this edge up look nice. And tilt this way just slightly. And there you can kind of see how nice his hair looks, real thick, real full. So right here, this is the final look. This is the 5 on top with the grain. A little bit of a drop fade towards the back, just so y'all can get a real nice profile view of it. So again, if you have any questions about this haircut, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. It's where I am a little bit better, more active, and more social. It is here in the bottom right corner, my Instagram tag. If you have any other questions about this haircut, remember it was done with the 0 first and then the 00, styled with just a little bit of the Real Men Helping Hand hairspray to help me set it in, and then the dashing texture powder to give it just a little bit more texture, guys. Hope you like it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, guys, and let me know if you have any other videos you want to see.